no oils. 90 essential nutrients. Limited calorie diet, no oils, 90 essential nutrients, plant-derived minerals, and antioxidants. This is the secret for longevity. Limited calorie diet. By the way, this data was confirmed by doing a meta-analysis of the longest-lived people on the planet, people that lived in the so-called blue zone. Some guy from Harvard years ago wrote a book called The Blue Zones, in which he described indigenous cultures around the world who had extraordinarily long lifespans. There are a number of them all around the world, and the guy from Harvard, being an MD trained in reductionistic methodology, thought to himself that, oh, it was something, genetic. There was something which was completely undecipherable by the mind of man that made these people live long. Something undecipherable by the mind of man, and they were guessing it, it's this, that, or the other thing, right? Well, as it turns out, when you look at things from the proper perspective, everything makes sense. If you look at an iceberg from underneath the water, you see quite a bit more stuff there than you do if you just look at it from sea level. Unless you knew any better, you could reasonably conclude that it is the sun that moves around the earth, and you'd be wrong. It's the earth that moves around on its axis, and it only appears as if the sun is moving in the sky. The proper perspective brings everything into focus. So when you look at the people in the blue zones from the proper perspective, there are a number of things which you see that they all had in common. Every single one of them had limited calorie diets. Not because they wanted to, but because they were poor. With the Hunzas in Afghanistan, their growing season was only 2 months long. Because they lived at such a high elevation, they had something called starvation springtime, where all of the stores of all of their stuff would be depleted, and for a couple of months they're running on food fumes, rummaging around the countryside for scraps like the reindeer, for goodness sake. Starvation springtime. Forced limited calorie diets, not by choice, but by, the inevitable march of nature. They just didn't have it together. They were on limited calorie diets because they're poor. They didn't cook with oil. The longest-lived cultures, none of them used oil. It's an interesting story. The longest-lived people in the Mediterranean were a group of indigenous people living in the middle of the island of Sardinia, which is an island off of the toe of the boot of Italy, Sardinia. Sardinians that lived in the middle of Sardinia ate no oil, and they didn't like olive oil like everybody else did. As a matter of fact, they called the people on the mainland of Italy who ate olive oil all the time, like it was going out of style, they called them greasers, well, of course, in their own dialect. Interesting. They didn't have any oil. None of the longest-lived cultures consumed oil. They didn't do it. They had animal fat, but they didn't, and butter and cream, but they did not use oil at all. And why is that important? Because oil contains acrylamide. And the more acrylamide that you eat, the more free radicals are in your body, and the more oxidative damage happens, and the more acrylamide is carcinogenic, amongst other things. So the more oils you eat in your body, the harder it is for your body. It's like poison. It's like a slow poison to the body. There's no other way to say it. Which begs the question, who told you to eat olive oil? Dr. Oz, who has no training, no clinical experience with medical nutrition. Who told Dr. Oz? The olive oil industry. I would have liked to have seen that check. I would have liked to have seen that check. Oh, yes, Dr. Oz, please go on Oprah and tell everybody it's good to eat olive oil. Here's $1 million, or whatever. This is how the world turns, one funeral at a time. 90 essential nutrients. Now, the people that lived in these indigenous zones were eating foods that were grown in soils that were unbelievably rich in minerals. And remember, the only place that minerals come from is the soil. Minerals are 2/3 of the body's nutritional needs. What are the body's nutritional needs? 90 essential nutrients, The breakdown, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 essential fatty acids. 60 minerals, 60 out of 90, that's 2/3. That's 66% of your body's nutrient needs are minerals. Things like sulfur and calcium and magnesium and phosphorus and boron and zinc and all these other trace minerals you've never even heard of. This is what the main thing your body needs. I mean, where did I read that? From dust man was made, and to dust he will return. Well, what's dust made out of? Minerals. Some minerals. So guess what? The longest lived cultures, by sheer luck, lived on parts of the planet where the soil or the water, in the case of the Hunzas it was the water, was rich in minerals, rich in minerals. In the Hunzas, it was called glacial milk. The water coming off of the glaciers was so rich in minerals, it was cloudy with mineral silt. It looked like milk, called glacial milk. That's what gave the Hunzas an extra lifespan. So, limited calorie diet, no oil, essential nutrients every day, including minerals. Oh, and by the way, you know, indigenous people are intuitively much more strong than you or I. The intuition of people living in relationship with Mother Earth is much more strong and pronounced than it is in cityfied folk living amongst the skyscrapers and the concrete. The indigenous people's intuition lent them to the practice of putting wood ash in their foods. So how did these people heat themselves? They burned wood. They burned bushes, right? They burned wood. What did they do with the wood ash that was left over? Well, you or I would throw it away. But their intuition was so acute that something told them to put the ash in their food. So the white ash, directly underneath the pot that they were hanging over the fire to cook their soup or heat the water for their coffee or tea, was white, because that part of the fire was the hottest part of the fire. The heat from the fire would come from the fire, would bounce up, hit the pot, and bounce back. And so the heat underneath the pot was doubly hot, and the ash underneath the pot was bone white, because all the carbon had been burned away. The ash directly underneath the pot, of course, potash. That's where the term came from. So the indigenous people, being in tune with their intuition, would put the potash in their bread, in their stews, in their food directly. They'd put it in their food, for goodness sake. And they'd put the gray ash on the periphery of the fire in their gardens. Why? Because their intuition told them to do it. Why? Because they were in tune with Mother Nature, in tune with the ineffable Spirit of God, which is inside of each one of us. That's where intuition comes from. It's direct perception of your soul's intelligence. That's what intuition is. It's direct perception of your soul's intelligence. Ever had a tingly sensation in the back of your neck when somebody's staring you down from behind and you turn around and you don't know why, and there they are? Well, that's your intuition. Ever thought about something and then 5 minutes later it happens? You're thinking about your long-lost cousin for out of the blue, and then 5 minutes later they call you up. That's intuition. There's a way to massage and strengthen your intuition. We're going to talk about that this Monday night on my Monday night webinar. It's about yoga. How about that? Look, even if you're a Christian, even if you're a Catholic, even if you're a Buddhist, even if you're an atheist, it does not matter your religious persuasion. Yoga will help you in your relationship to your own spirituality. It will, and I'm going to explain why this Monday evening on my birthday webinar, all about yoga. Check it out, but I digress. So the people indigenous peoples put wood ash in their gardens and in their food. What is wood ash? It's minerals. Minerals. What happens? Well, the plants growing in the soil, the trees growing in the soil, the bushes growing in the soil, the roots suck the minerals out of the soil. The plant metabolizes the minerals, turns them into colloids, and then we burn the plant, we burn the bush, we burn whatever it is for heat. Now, the heat of the fire degrades the sugars and the carbons and the cellular material, the fibers in the plant, but it can't degrade a mineral. You need a laser beam, you need a blast furnace to degrade a mineral, and then you only melt it. So wood ash is mostly minerals left over from the plant. So how about that? So, ironically, the indigenous people living in the blue zones were, by sheer force of intuition, mineralizing their bodies with wood ash, which made them healthier than you or I. Made them healthier than you or I because they were securing 66% of their body's nutritional needs every single flippin' day. Until you found longevity, you're getting nothing, nada, squat, zero. Well, maybe not zero. Maybe 10, 20, 30% if you're lucky. Last thing that they did was they were also eating or drinking stuff that they made themselves, right, that was loaded with antioxidants. The Vilcabambas in Peru were eating a chocolate, not Hershey's chocolate, but a Vilcabamba chocolate recipe that had 20,000 ORAC points. They were securing 20,000 ORAC points of antioxidants a day. The average American gets 1,500. The average Canadian gets 1,200. And we get 1,200 and 1,500. They get 20,000. We die in our 70s after 20 years of pain and suffering, and they live to be over 100 with no doctors, no medical insurance, no hospitals. They're lucky if they have a roof over their head. Ladies and gentlemen, knowledge is power. Take your 90 essential nutrients, eat a limited calorie diet, restrict the oils, restrict the 10 bad foods, take the plant minerals, take the antioxidants, live long and prosper. Give me a call instead of going to your MD, 866-582-9933. Going to talk to Douglas in San Diego when we come back. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, December 6th, 2013. December 6th, 2013. How the heck did that happen? Let's go to San Diego and see what Douglas is up to, that lucky dog living in San Diego where it's 71 year-round. Douglas, you're alive.
Hey, Dr. G, how's it going?
Doug, I've got one question for you, brother.
Yes.
What's today's temperature in San Diego?
I don't know. I think it's got 60-something.
Oh, my God, you're killing me. 60 is probably in the upper 60s, not the lower 60s. Oh, my God. You know, I visited San Diego in 1978. My college girlfriend and I were traveling around the country. We were in San Diego for a couple of weeks. 1978, for goodness sake. And I thought to myself, man, oh, man, I should move here now, but I didn't. And you know what they say, Douglas, retrospect makes wise men of us all.
Yep, no doubt.
So listen, man, thanks for the phone call. What's up? How can I help?
Well, you know me for longevity. I met you first in longevity a few years ago.
I remember. I know who you are. I remember, yeah. I can see your face in my mind's eye, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, it's a lot fatter since last time you saw me. I gained a lot of weight.
So I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but the good part is now I'm doing the plan, the 1,200 calories, and with all the supplements and everything, and I'm already 5 pounds down in 1 week.
Well, there you go. 5 pounds in 1 week. That's great. Now, you should reference the webinar that I did on weight loss because 5 pounds is about the max limit that I like to see people lose a week. We don't want to lose it faster than that because you can hurt yourself. But that's that's really great, Douglas. Good job, man.
Well, that's where I got it from. I got it from your webinar. I'm now an insider on your
Well, that makes you the smartest man in San Diego. Fantastic. Thank you for the support. And results speak for themselves, right? This is why longevity is such an awesome thing to be involved with.
Yeah, it's been I've had a lot of great testimonies about longevity and a lot of the advice you gave me. But today I wanted to ask you about Huntington's disease.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, go ahead.
A friend of mine, his wife died already of Huntington's disease, and I was there at the last day before she died, praying with him, and it was pretty bad. And the main thing that's my question today is his children. The doctors, of course, told them their children that they have a good chance of getting the same problem, and they're all scared to death now that they're going to, die badly like their mom. And I want to know what you could recommend possibly for something preventative, which is what you've always told, preventative.
Well, first things first. I mean, if the MDs told the kids that they had a very high chance of being possessed by an evil spirit, turning into zombies and eating each other in the middle of the night, they would file a complaint with the state medical board, right?
Right.
Because that's just crazy. I mean, that's just crazy. When you hear somebody crazy talking like that, especially if they're in a position of power, especially if they have a medical license, then that behavior is suspect. I mean, you can't hold a medical license if you've had a felony charge. You can't do it because, we hold these people to a higher standard. Well, here's what I want the family members to do. And I want them to channel their grief. I want them to call the doctor up. I want them to record the calling. And I want them to say, doctor, which gene is it, specifically which gene is it that codes for Huntington's chorea? Which gene is it that codes for Huntington's chorea? You just told everybody in my family that they had a chance, a higher than normal chance of getting this. What is that information based on? What is the gene responsible? And is it autosomally recessive? Is it autosomally dominant? Is it a sexually transmitted thing? What is it? Because I need to know. And then the doctor will obfuscate, and the doctor will shuffle, and then the doctor will make up some nonsense. And then they should write a letter to the state medical board complaining that that doctor scared the crap out of them for no scientific reason. You need to take action like this, Douglas. The medical doctor has his head so far up his rear end, he can't even see daylight. Medical doctors tell people nonsense all of the time, and they genuflect at the altar, and they think that just because he has an MD after his name, he's got the secret decoder ring to all things scientific. It's nonsense. These are the same people that told us to put leeches on our body. These are the same people that told us to bleed ourselves to death. These are the same people that told us to take thalidomide in the vaccines. No problem. These are the same people that told us to take Vioxx. 500,000 people died from their advice.
That's
so look, and now I'm going to tell you what to do on the other side of the break to support and promote the structure and function of the central nervous system. But I want you to ride this one hard, man. Get in touch with these people. Tell them to call their doctor up and hold his freaking feet to the fire. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. 866-582-9933. Lines are open. 866-582-9933. We're talking to Douglas in warm and sunny San Diego about Huntington's disease, Huntington's chorea. You still with me, Doug?
Yes, I am.
All right. So let me tell you Dr. Wallach's understanding of Huntington's chorea, Lou Gehrig's disease, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and to a lesser extent Alzheimer's. Okay. Now, from his point of view, I mean, after 26,000 autopsies, you start to get a clue, right? From his point of view, these illnesses are different arms of the same octopus, and they are all examples of oxidative damage to different parts of the central nervous system. Now, I don't know if you remember this from high school or college biology, but your brain and your spinal cord feed and control different parts of your body mind. Some parts of your brain control your speech. Some parts of your brain control your memory. Some parts of your brain control the left side of your body, the right side of your body. Some parts of your spinal cord control your gallbladder and your heart and your liver and everything, right? Your different parts of the central nervous system are related to different parts of the human body. So when you get oxidative damage in one part of the brain, it makes you have the tremors. And when you get oxidative damage in another part of the brain, you only get tremors if you try to walk. If you sit still, nothing happens. If you get tremors in another, if you get oxidative damage in another part of the brain, you can't remember your name or your kids' names or who you are, and everything goes to pot, and so forth and so on. If you get damage in another part of your brain, you get paralyzed, and your right arm gets paralyzed, or the whole left side of your body, or your left big toe, or whatever. Heaven forbid. So, oxidative damage is happening everywhere all of the time. Oxidative damage doesn't just happen to the body. Oxidative damage happens to the world. It's what makes everything get old and die. And, mountains turn to dust and iron turns to rust because of oxidative damage. Fruit and vegetables go bad. Meat goes bad because of oxidative damage. You cut an apple, leave it on the countertop, the exposed fruit starts to turn brown. That's oxidative damage. You make some guacamole and it's oxidative damage. It's interesting with guacamole. It turns brown, right, if you leave it out in the air. But if you put lemon juice on it, if you squeeze lemon juice on top of the guacamole, it doesn't turn brown. Why is that? Because the vitamin C is an antioxidant, and it stops oxidative damage. That's a fun little experiment to do to show yourself the power of antioxidants. Make a bowl of guacamole and cut it down the middle. Like put something in the middle of it, like a fork or a knife or something, so it separates one side of the guacamole from the other. And on one side of the guacamole, squeeze, a whole lemon. Just fill it to the brim with lemon juice. And the other side, don't do anything to. And don't put any saran wrap over it. Just leave it exposed to the air. And then come back in an hour and look to see how it looks. The side that you put lemon juice on is going to be bright green. It's going to look unchanged. And the side that didn't have that is going to be all brown, because that's oxidative damage. Oxidative damage happens everywhere all the time. It's happening in your body right now. Now, there are things that we can do to decrease the amount of oxidative damage that's happening in the body at any moment in time, because the body has its own fire department, which puts out the fires of oxidative damage. Antioxidants put out the fires of oxidative damage. The body's own antioxidant is called glutathione, and the body recycles and uses over and over and over glutathione in the presence of selenium. Now, one of the secrets of the longest-lived cultures in the world, the people that live in the blue zones, was they ate, by accident, food that was loaded with antioxidants. I mean, loaded. They got 20 times as much antioxidant in their food as we do, 20 times as much. And when you increase the antioxidant levels in your body through food or through nutritional supplements, you go a long way towards putting out the fires of inflammation and thereby living longer. So Dr. Wallach believes, and I concur, that these diseases of the central nervous system is oxidative damage that's happening in different parts of the central nervous system. Now, why in some person it goes to the spinal cord, another person it goes to the right lobe of the brain, and another person it goes to the left lobe of the brain, nobody knows. But nonetheless, the game is afoot here. So, when we see people with these illnesses, our recommendation is to support and promote the structure and function of the brain and the central nervous system, and to increase the antioxidant ability of your body. So how do we do that? Well, it's easy. Lean on Dr. Wallach, right? Healing is easy. It's not complicated. This is a brain and central nervous system issue, so what are we going to do? We're going to support and promote the structure and function of the brain and the central nervous system. We do that with the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. We increase our antioxidant ability by giving selenium and nutritional supplements that are high in antioxidants. The most famous of all longevity supplements for antioxidant numbers is Triple Treat chocolate, right? One piece of Triple Treat chocolate has like 18,000 ORAC points of antioxidants, something like that. Is it 18,000? Is it 17,000? I can't remember.
It's 16,000 something.
Yeah, 16,900. So 17,000, right? So the recommendation to support and promote the structure and function of the central nervous system would be one Healthy Brain and Heart Pack and 2 bottles of selenium per 100 pounds of body weight per month. 1 Healthy Brain and Heart Pack and 2 bottles of selenium per 100 pounds of body weight per month, and as much antioxidants as a person can afford. Look, if they want to eat 4 pieces of chocolate a day, God bless them. If they can afford that, that's what I would do. And the final straw in this drink is cholesterol, because all of your nerves and 75% of your brain, man, that's just a remarkable number. 75% of your brain, 2/3 of your brain and central nervous system is made from cholesterol. So whenever anybody has a brain or central nervous system problem, it would be prudent to eat a diet that's high in cholesterol. Now, Dr. Wallach's recommendation, 12 eggs a day. Now, I don't know anybody that can do that. Actually, that's a lie. I do know people that have done that. And they've had remarkable recoveries from central nervous system dysfunction. So cholesterol, and then more cholesterol, and then top it off with some cholesterol. Even Harvard University agrees with us on this. And their recommendation is a diet that's 80% fat. 80% fat, right? Now, I'm not talking oil. We don't do oil, but we do butter.
Right.
We do butter. We do full-fat milk, full-fat yogurt, full-fat cheese, chicken with the skin, turkey with the skin, right? Cholesterol. Just go crazy for cholesterol, man. So that's it. Healthy brain and heart pack, selenium, as much antioxidants as they can afford in supplement form. And then, of course, you can educate yourself about the food value of antioxidants, because different foods have different levels of antioxidants. Green tea and cinnamon are loaded with antioxidants, right? So by making simple switches in what you eat, you can make a giant difference in the amount of antioxidants that are in your body outside of supplementation. So this is a good strategy. But be warned, if somebody has fibromyalgia or an arthritic problem, we want to look to see something get better in the first 4 weeks. For goodness sake, one of the callers on today's show, she had an arthritic problem for 3 months. It got better in 10 days. I mean, that's just crazy, right? So
yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
We look to see improvement in certain conditions rapidly, but with central nervous system stuff, they have to be in this for the long haul. I would say a minimum of 6 months. A minimum of 6 months. They just have to maintain the discipline. Even if they feel nothing change, they got to ride this horse for at least 6 months. And the last thing I'd like to tell you, Doug, I tell this to people all the time, and it's important, and that's why I tell it all the time. Remember, this is a holistic approach, right? So we're not treating arthritis. We're not treating Huntington's chorea. We're not treating high blood pressure. We're not treating anything. What we're doing is supporting and promoting the body's ability to fix itself. And we do that in a holistic manner because, for goodness sake, everything's connected. So if I had Huntington's chorea and I was taking a nutritional supplement program in a holistic manner like this, I would look to see what happens to me across the board. How's my mood? How's my energy? How's my sleep? How's my appetite? How's my sex drive? How's my bowel movements? How's my urination? What's the quality of my skin like? You want to pay attention to everything into the bargain while you're waiting to see results in the central nervous system stuff. And if people pay attention to themselves in a holistic manner like this, they're often given hope to hold out for the long run, right? Because this is very much a long run here, helping people to get on the other side of this stuff. But every month, if they're doing things correctly, they should see improvement. And that's how we do it: 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, and life is good.
Yes.
Does that make sense, Douglas?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, Dr. G. And also, I wanted to ask you, if someone else in the family did have it, could it be because they're exposed to some sort of medication, or what would be?
Well, if someone else in the family, all right. So if somebody else in the family had it, it doesn't matter if everybody in the family had it. It doesn't matter because it's not genetic. It is not an inheritable disorder. It's caused by oxidative damage to the central nervous system. So what tends to happen in families is families all eat the same way, right? They live in the same part of the country where they're eating the same food. Now, one thing that is genetic is weaknesses of the body. Everybody has a body that has weak and strong links. In some people's body, their heart is weak. In some people's body, their lungs are weak. In some people's body, their left elbow is weak. In some people's body, their right kidney is weak. In some people's body, their central nervous system is weak, or whatever. There are over 200 diseases that are caused by not enough calcium. Over 200. But nobody knows why this person with a calcium deficiency gets arthritis, and the next person with a calcium deficiency gets high blood pressure, and the next person with a calcium deficiency gets heartburn. They're all calcium diseases, but why do they show up here, there, or somewhere else? We don't know. But we do believe that people in the same family share the same weaknesses and or strengths. So probably what's happening with these people is their central nervous system is a little weak, and for whatever reason their central nervous system is more prone to oxidative stress than anywhere else in their body. So, but you want to, all things being equal, we should be able to dial this stuff in scientifically. So, if in fact it is a genetic inheritable disorder, which is discoverable through or operable through Mendelian genetics, then the doctor needs to know the name of the gene and, the type of inheritable disorder it is. So get the doctor to name the gene. Get the doctor to name the gene. They won't be able to. Thanks for the call, Doug. Keep up the good work. Boom, 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 baby. It's the end of the week. It's the holiday season. Hope you're learning something here. Let's close it out with a little more knowledge. I just pulled up Wikipedia in the break, and I looked up Huntington's disease, and I'm going to read you straight from the Bible. You ready? Straight from Wikipedia, which is the Bible of all things scientific. Huntington's disease, I quote, is a neurodegenerative genetic disorder that affects muscle coordination and leads to cognitive decline and psychiatric problems. It typically becomes noticeable in mid-adult life. Huntington's disease is the most common genetic cause of abnormal involuntary writhing movements called chorea, which is why the disease used to be called Huntington's chorea. The disease, here's where it gets tricky. The disease is caused by an autosomal dominant mutation in either of an individual's two copies of a gene called Huntington, which means any child of an affected person typically has a 50% chance of inheriting the disease. No, that is not true. And this is where we part company with the geneticists. This is what Dr. Wallach proved when he was working at Yerkes Research Center, but this is why this is a perfect example of the intractability and the closed-mindedness of the medical profession before the facts. Dr. Wallach proved that cystic fibrosis, that the mutation in the gene that codes for cystic fibrosis is not inheritable. It's not a gene that you can inherit. It's a mutation to a gene caused by a nutritional deficiency in the blood of the pregnant mother. A nutritional deficiency makes the chromosome break, which makes the gene mutate. It's a mutated gene. It's a mutation. Mutations can't be inheritable. You can't pass on a mutated gene, for goodness sake. You can get your own mutation. You can get your own mutation, which is likely to happen. What are the major causes of gene mutations? Not enough minerals. Why? Because genes have this thing called metallic fingers. Chromosomes have structure inside them called the metallic fingers, which lends them structural support. When the metallic fingers break, the chromosome breaks. When the chromosome breaks, the gene gets mutated. But you're never, ever, ever going to be able to convince a geneticist who's given 30 years of his life over to the false notion that this stuff is inheritable. Who says it's inheritable? Some guy 40 years ago in a dark room in Harvard University picked his head up from a dusty library book and declared it's inheritable, and he's wrong. And even when we prove to the contrary, as Dr. Wallach did at Yerkes Primate Research Center at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia in the mid-1970s, that cystic fibrosis does not follow the laws of Mendelian genetics. It's not an inheritable thing. It's a mutated gene. The scientific community not only ignores him, not only ignores the facts directly in front of their face, but they ostracize him, fire him, kick him out. You're no longer acceptable here, Doc. Your notions are too far out there. And so we march apace at a slow speed. And even when the guy that discovered the genetic structure of the human chromosomal material, the structure of DNA, James Watson comes out and says all of the research on genetics is moot, shouldn't be done, because it's not the genetics, it's the biochemistry that affects the genes. It's the biochemistry that makes the genes mutate. It's not the mutated genes that makes the biochemistry, it's the other way around. But nobody pays any attention, because, for goodness sake, the earth is flat. Didn't you know that? And oh yeah, slavery is a good thing. And oh yeah, women really shouldn't be allowed to vote. What are you, crazy? Women voting? What are you, crazy? A broken chromosome? Everybody knows it's inheritable. And so we march ahead at a slow and steady pace to our doom and destruction and poverty and despair at the hands of the MDs. Well, guess what? Out of this matrix, there is a solution. It's longevity. Longevity is the red pill. Pop out of the matrix, ladies and gentlemen, into the wonderful, bright field of science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. Good, new-fashioned science for a new generation. Quite frankly, for anybody that has eyes to see and ears to hear. Thanks for spending another week with me. I appreciate it more than you'll know. Have a very happy holiday season. God willing, I'm back in the saddle on Monday. Until then, live long and prosper.